The Japanese Imperial Family is the oldest monarchy in the world, but their tiaras only appeared a century and a half ago. Unlike European crowns adorned with rubies and sapphires, here you will find only diamonds and pearls. Why is that? And why does Princess Aiko, daughter of Emperor Naruhito, still wear her aunt's tiara instead of having her own? Today, we will explore the history of Japanese tiaras, delicate symbols of tradition and change. This is a story of purity, duty, and jewelry that holds far more meaning than meets the eye. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. The Japanese Imperial Family is the oldest monarchy in the world, with a history spanning over 2,000 years. However, the tiaras we associate with royal figures today appeared in Japan relatively recently, in the 19th century. It all began during the Meiji era in 1868, when Japan decided to abandon its isolationist policy. After centuries of seclusion, Emperor Meiji and his government sought modernization. Japan opened its ports, began trading with the West, and started adopting European traditions. One such tradition was the fashion for Western-style gowns and jewelry. In 1886, Prime Minister Ito Hirobumi issued a decree that transformed the court wardrobe. Women of the imperial household were ordered to abandon traditional kimonos in favor of European attire. And in January 1887, Empress Shōken, wife of Emperor Meiji, appeared at the New Year's ceremony wearing a German-style gown and a tiara. This was not just a fashion statement. It was a signal to the world that Japan was ready to join the international stage. But if you compare Japanese tiaras with European ones, the difference is striking. In Europe, royal jewels sparkle with sapphires, rubies, and emeralds, bright symbols of wealth and power. And in Japan, only diamonds and pearls, set in white metal. Why is that? The answer lies in culture. In Japan, white symbolizes purity, sanctity, and refinement. It holds a special place in the traditions of the imperial family, which has long embodied the ideals of restraint and dignity. Even official ceremonial gowns are white, a reference to the Heian from 794 to 1185, when court ladies wore multi-layered white silk kimonos. Colored gemstones like rubies or emeralds would be considered too extravagant, too distant from the Japanese spirit. Instead, diamonds and pearls became the perfect choice. They shine, but do not shout opulence. There is another unique aspect. Japanese tiaras are not just ornaments. They are part of a strict system. They are managed by the Imperial Household Agency, which oversees every aspect of the royal family's life, from finances to protocol. Tiaras are often created for princesses upon reaching adulthood at the age of 20, and they are paid for with public funds allocated for state purposes. But there is a condition. If a princess marries a commoner, she loses her title and must return the tiara to the state. This rule underscores the idea that tiaras are not personal property, but symbols of status and duty to the country. Even their design is tightly controlled. No experimentation, only classic lines and white gemstones. Now that we understand where Japanese tiaras come from and what they represent, it's time to take a closer look at them. Let's start with one of the most important, the Meiji Tiara, which opened a new chapter in the history of Japanese jewelry. This tiara appeared in the late 19th century when Japan was actively adopting Western traditions. Empress Haruko, also known as Shōken, became the first woman in the country's history to officially abandon traditional Japanese court attire and start wearing European clothing. And what is needed to complement a European evening gown? A tiara, of course. Thus, in the 1880s, the Meiji Tiara was created, the first Western-style crown in the Japanese collection. Its design reflected the flexibility of a new era, a classic diamond structure with two interchangeable options, either large diamond elements or removable stars that could be added or removed depending on the occasion. Star motifs were incredibly popular in Europe at the time, especially after they were introduced into fashion by Empress Elizabeth of Austria. The Japanese imperial court, eager to align with international standards, followed this trend. However, Unlike Western crowns adorned with rubies, emeralds, or sapphires, the Meiji Tiara remained strictly white, made exclusively of diamonds without colored gemstones, emphasizing traditional Japanese values of purity and refinement. Throughout the 20th century, it was passed down from one empress to the next. It was worn by Shōken, Taimei, and Kojin, but over time the stars disappeared. Perhaps they simply went out of fashion, or maybe they were considered too ornate for the restrained aesthetic of the Japanese court. Ultimately, the tiara remained in its classic form with smooth diamond elements. By the 1990s, the tiara stopped appearing in public. Empress Michiko preferred lighter jewelry, and gradually, the Meiji Tiara faded into obscurity. Many thought we would never see it at official events again. But in 2019, a long-awaited return happened. On the day of Emperor Naruhito's enthronement, the new Empress Masako wore the Meiji Tiara. This was a symbolic moment. The ornament that marked the beginning of Western-style tiaras in Japan was once again in the spotlight. Next on our list is the Chrysanthemum Tiara, a symbol of the imperial throne. This is one of the most symbolic pieces of jewelry in the Japanese Imperial Family. Its history begins in 1915, when Empress Taimei, wife of Emperor Taisho, commissioned a magnificent diamond corsage featuring chrysanthemums from Mikimoto. 2 years later, in 1917, it was transformed into a tiara with 7 flowers separated by delicate motifs. The chrysanthemum is not just an ornament, it is the emblem of the imperial household, the symbol of the throne, which is often referred to as the chrysanthemum throne. The tiara became an exclusive attribute of the empresses, highlighting their status. After Taimei's death in 1951, it was passed on to the next wearer, Empress Nagako, wife of Emperor Hirohito. Nagako wore it at key events, in 1959 at the wedding of her son Akihito, in 1969 at a banquet for the King of Afghanistan, and in 1976 for the King of Jordan. When Akihito ascended the throne in 1989, the tiara was given to Empress Michiko. She favored it during the 2000s when, due to neck problems, she stopped wearing the heavier Meiji Tiara. However, after the New Year's reception in 2012, Michiko ceased wearing tiaras altogether. For many years, the ornament remained in storage until June 2024, when Empress Masako wore it at a state banquet at Buckingham Palace during a visit to King Charles III. It was a triumphant return, proving that the tiara had not lost its splendor. The uniqueness of the tiara lies in its design and lightness. The diamond chrysanthemums create an elegant pattern, and the platinum base makes it more comfortable than older gold-based tiaras. Nagako wore it like a crown, while Michiko positioned it closer to her forehead, distributing the weight more evenly. Today, Masako has revived its glory, and the Chrysanthemum Tiara continues to symbolize the connection between empresses and Japanese traditions. Both the Meiji and Chrysanthemum tiaras are exclusive to empresses. They are not passed to other branches of the family and are never worn by princesses, no matter how high their status. This is a special mark of respect for the leading woman of the country, in whose hands rests the symbolism of the imperial throne. Of course, the other ladies of the imperial household also have their own tiaras. After all, the brilliance of white diamonds is an essential part of any court reception. What do these lesser treasures look like? And how do they differ from one another if they are all made only of diamonds and pearls? We will explore this next. The pearl sunburst tiara is one of those that immediately draws attention. It lacks the usual swirls or intricate floral patterns found in Japanese imperial ornaments, but when viewed from a certain angle, its name becomes clear. Diamond rays extend from the center like a small sun, while rhythmic rows of pearls add to its sophistication. A seemingly simple design, yet incredibly striking. But the main intrigue of this tiara is not in its design, but in its history. In 1959, when young Michiko Shoda was preparing to become Japan's first non-aristocratic crown princess, the imperial family commissioned several new pieces of jewelry for her. Among them was the sunburst tiara, elegant, without excessive details, yet still worthy of a future empress. Michiko was not born into the palace, but she quickly mastered the rules of court life. In the early years of her marriage, she was sent on international tours, where she easily charmed world leaders. She made her first public appearance in this tiara at an official reception at the White House in 1960, where she met President Eisenhower. After that, she wore it at numerous diplomatic banquets and state events. When Akihito became emperor in 1989, Michiko transitioned to wearing the empress's tiaras, and this one was placed in storage. Decades later, it returned to the spotlight, but on a different woman. In 1993, Masako Owada married Prince Naruhito and faced the same challenges as Michiko, adapting to the closed world of the imperial court, constant media scrutiny, and strict rules. She needed a symbolic accessory that would help her balance tradition and her own individuality, and the sunburst tiara became that piece. The tiara was a perfect fit for Masako. It was noticeable but not too heavy, refined yet without excess. Unlike massive dynastic crowns, the sunburst tiara looked lighter and more modern, aligning with her image. A woman who didn't just enter the imperial family, but sought to bring something new to it. Today, Masako is already empress and wears more significant tiaras, but the sunburst remains a part of her history. Perhaps, like Michiko, Masako has now passed it on to the current crown princess, her sister-in-law Kiko. Among all Japanese imperial tiaras, there is one that has literally passed through multiple generations of future empresses. This is the Crown Princely Wedding Tiara, an elegant piece worn at the weddings of both Michiko and Masako. Unlike grand European royal crowns, this tiara does not loudly proclaim its significance, yet upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that it is a true symbol of the continuity of the Japanese throne. Take, for example, its design. Large diamond scrolls intertwining in a complex pattern, with small floral buttons in between, reminiscent of Japan's most important symbol, the chrysanthemum. This is no coincidence. Every detail in this tiara carries deep meaning, highlighting the connection between the past, present, and future of the imperial household. This tiara first gained prominence in 1959, when young Michiko Shoda married Crown Prince Akihito. At the time, their marriage was truly revolutionary. For the first time in history, a future empress did not come from aristocratic lineage, but from an ordinary, though wealthy, family. Michiko wore both traditional attire and a Western-style wedding gown, paired, of course, with this tiara. That day, she looked as if she had belonged to this world from birth, graceful, with a gentle smile, surrounded by thousands of people eager to see Japan's first commoner crown princess. The tiara perfectly complemented her look. There was no excessive opulence, but its elegance made it truly memorable. 3 decades later, the tiara made another grand appearance at the wedding of Masako Owada in 1993. Just like Michiko's ceremony, Masako's wedding included 2 stages, a traditional Shinto ritual and a Western-style segment with a white dress. And once again, this tiara symbolized her new status. Its intricate lines seemed to emphasize that she was not just the wife of a crown prince, but a future empress embarking on a long and complex journey within the palace. But, as we know, this path was not an easy one. After her wedding, Masako was unable to fully perform her duties for a long time due to psychological pressure and the difficulties of adapting to court life. At one point, she disappeared from official events altogether. Since May 2019, the tiara has had a new owner, Crown Princess Kiko, the wife of the heir presumptive. Thus, the tiara, once worn by 2 future empresses, now belongs to a woman whose husband is most likely to ascend the throne one day. This underscores the main significance of this ornament. It always belongs to the woman who stands on the path to the imperial title. Why Kiko and not Emperor Naruhito's daughter Aiko? The answer is simple. Under Japan's succession system, the throne is passed only through the male line. Since Naruhito has no sons, the next in line to the throne is his brother, Prince Fumihito of Akishino. This means that his wife Kiko is now officially the crown princess. When Kiko Kawashima married Prince Fumihito in 1990, their wedding did not attract as much public excitement as the marriages of Michiko or Masako, but that does not mean it was not an important event for the Japanese Imperial Family. Kiko came from a regular family. Her father was a university professor, and her mother was a teacher. In some ways, her story echoed that of Michiko, who was the first to break down the barriers between the palace and common society. On her wedding day, Kiko appeared wearing the Akishino tiara, created especially for her. The most distinctive feature of this tiara is its iris motif, chosen because the iris is Kiko's personal imperial emblem. In Japan, the iris symbolizes resilience and protection from evil spirits. Its long, sword-like leaves have historically been associated with samurai honor and duty. For Kiko, this tiara became a symbol of her new role, not just as the wife of a prince, but as a woman committed to serving the traditions of the imperial family. For years, whenever Kiko attended the New Year's court, state banquets, or any other event requiring a tiara, she was always seen wearing this one. However, in May 2019, when Kiko officially became crown princess, she transitioned to wearing the crown princely wedding tiara, as was customary for her new status. There is a beautiful tradition in the Japanese Imperial Family. When a princess turns 20, she receives her first set of formal jewelry, including a tiara, necklace, bracelet, and earrings. This moment symbolizes her transition into adulthood and the beginning of her official royal duties. For imperial daughters, this day is particularly significant. It marks their first official appearance in full formal attire, signifying their status as working members of the imperial household. This tradition applied to sisters Meiko and Keiko, the daughters of Prince Fumihito and Crown Princess Kiko. In 2011, when Princess Meiko turned 20, she received her diamond tiara from Waco, valued at 29 million yen, approximately $255,000. This was far from the most expensive imperial tiara, but its classic Japanese court design, featuring delicate diamond patterns, elegant swirls, and floral elements, made it an exquisite piece. Meiko wore this tiara at New Year's receptions, official banquets, and meetings with foreign royals, but her fate took a different turn. In 2021, Mako renounced her imperial title by marrying Kei Komuro, a commoner. According to the strict rules of the imperial family, a woman who marries outside the aristocracy loses her status as a princess and must return her tiara to the state. As a result, Meiko's tiara was placed back in the imperial vault, and it has not been seen in public since. In 2014, her younger sister, Princess Kako, received her own diamond tiara, this time created by Mikimoto, the legendary Japanese jeweler known for its cultured pearls. The cost of the tiara was 28 million yen, approximately $246,000, and like Meiko's, its design featured a floral theme. Unlike Meiko, Keiko remains an active member of the imperial family and continues to carry out her ceremonial duties. Every January 1st, she appears at the New Year's reception at the imperial palace, standing alongside her mother and aunts, with her tiara sparkling under the lights. However, history has shown that the brilliance of an imperial tiara can be fleeting. If Kako one day chooses to marry a commoner, her tiara will also be returned to the vault, just as Meiko's was. In 2021, when Princess Aiko, the only daughter of Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako, reached adulthood, everyone expected that she, like other Japanese princesses before her, would receive her first tiara. But things turned out differently. Aiko did not commission a new parure, not because the family decided to break with tradition, but because of the pandemic. During those years, events were being canceled worldwide, borders were closing, and the imperial family wanted to demonstrate modesty during difficult times. As a result, they decided not to spend public funds on a new tiara, and instead find an alternative. The choice fell on a tiara that belonged to her aunt, former Princess Sayako. the only daughter of Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko. This tiara was created in 1989 when Sayako turned 20 by Mikimoto, one of Japan's most prestigious jewelers, known for its cultured pearls. Its design features traditional scrollwork and floral motifs, making it visually similar to the tiaras of other imperial princesses. The decision to use a borrowed tiara sparked mixed reactions. Some saw it as a gesture of responsibility and solidarity, while others were surprised. Until then, every Japanese princess had received her own tiara. But there is one crucial distinction. Sayako's tiara is not part of the state collection. It is privately owned. When Sayako married a commoner in 2005 and lost her imperial status, she was allowed to keep her tiara, as it was paid for from the imperial family's private funds rather than from the government budget. This is an important detail. If Aiko had received a new tiara, it would have been added to the state collection, just like those of Princesses Mako and Keiko. But since Sayako still legally owns her tiara, Aiko is merely borrowing it. What comes next? For now, the future is unclear. Perhaps in the coming years, a tiara will be made specifically for Aiko. But at the same time, her role within the imperial family remains uncertain. Since women cannot inherit the throne, her status and responsibilities are limited. Beyond the main branches of the Japanese imperial family, there is another lineage whose female members also wear tiaras, the Takamado family. Princess Hisako Takamado, widow of Prince Takamado, a cousin of former Emperor Akihito, possesses 3 tiaras, making her one of the most versatile wearers of imperial jewelry. The first tiara in Hisako's collection was created in 1984 for her wedding to Prince Takamado. It is a classic Japanese tiara, adorned with diamonds, featuring smooth, elegant curves and designed to be light yet refined. Hisako first appeared in this tiara at official events after her marriage, and it has remained her primary formal accessory ever since. But unlike other Japanese princesses, Hisako did not stop at just one tiara. Later, she acquired a second tiara, featuring pearls, with a more traditional Japanese aesthetic. This piece was previously worn by Princess Yasuko of Mikasa, one of Hisako's sisters-in-law, who left the imperial family after her marriage and returned her tiara to the state. The third tiara in Hisako's collection is a laurel wreath design, featuring delicate diamond leaves arranged in a classical pattern. Laurel wreaths traditionally symbolize victory and honor, and while this motif is more commonly seen in European royal jewelry, in this case it blends seamlessly into the restrained elegance of Japanese imperial tiaras. But perhaps the most unexpected moment in the Takamado family's jewelry history occurred in 2018, when Princess Ayako, Hisako's youngest daughter, married Kei Moriya, a commoner. Like Princess Mako, her marriage meant that she permanently left the imperial family. For her wedding, instead of a traditional tiara, Ayako made an unusual choice. She wore a transformed diamond necklace as a flexible headpiece. This necklace belonged to her mother, Princess Hisako, and was part of her 1984 wedding parure. That's all for now. Thank you for watching until the end. Tell us in the comments, which tiara stood out to you the most? How do you feel about the style and traditions of Japan's royal ladies? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. There are plenty more fascinating stories about royal jewels ahead.